Hi everyone and welcome back to Fix It TV, and this time got a video for you about Warhammer Online, only this time is not about Warhammer Online Return of Reckoning, the private server. This time is an early video about Warhammer Online Interbellum private server. Interbellum private server has been worked on from a few people that left the team in the past, maybe some more recent members from the ROR team or before, and it's a server that is not live yet, but it is a server that is going to come live soon according to the developers of that server. Now soon means something we don't know. I mean, they said it's not going to, it doesn't mean years, but we don't know exactly how long it's going to be. Nevertheless, it has intrigued the interest of a lot of people, and on the end of July, the 30th of July specifically, they had a Q&A on the Discord. Some of you might have been there, some of you might have watched a couple of streams of people streaming it live. For those, though, that have missed the opportunity to watch this and be informed, I thought it would be nice to have a video to show you and myself as a reminder what this new server has to offer. So let's go and see what's going to be different from the original game, what's going to be different from the Return of Reckoning server, and decide whether this is something we want to give it a shot. All right, let's start with a couple of general things that are going to be happening on this new server. There will be horizontal and vertical progression every few seasons. So we're going to have seasons on this one. Now, whether these seasons are going to be something like, let's say, Diablo 4, when you finish something, all the gear go to the bin and then you start again, I don't know. It hasn't been clarified very much. But it's something new that didn't exist on the original game and doesn't exist on Return of Reckoning either. Item level will change based on certain launch level and will increase to the final one, and horizontal progression is based on being able to easily get multiple sets via drops, which means you don't have to deal so much about accumulating crest A and crest B and convert and crest C if there's going to be dropping via drops. Something that I know a lot of people would possibly ask is about, can I have instant level? Is it faster? Is it slower? A lot of us have grinded a lot of characters throughout the years to a lot of levels, but in the Interbellum server, it looks like you will need about 20 hours to get from level 1 to level 40 and RR 80. Mastery points earned by level and not renown rank. Gear will also be earned faster, and we have an RNG stats drop based. Now, I am not a great fan of random things, as you know. Having some random stats is not a bad thing. Probably you can do something with this gear or not. Good ones, worse ones, but I just hope that the RNG is not going to be as mental as has been like in Lost Ark, Diablo 4, and just going to be more of an annoyance than actually a good thing. All add-ons allowed. Rejoice. Some people love add-ons. You know that I run about 64 to 80 add-ons on the Return of Reckoning server. Here it says all add-ons will be allowed. However, because we all know there's a controversial add-on, which is nerf buttons. A lot of people want it, some people don't want it, and once it was banned from Return of Reckoning, some people did leave because of that. Don't know how many, but some did. The game has been designed to circumvent the necessity for nerf buttons, and even if people use it, they won't get any skill benefit from it, which means although all add-ons are allowed, they have changed the system in such a way that you don't need to have nerf buttons. Apparently, I don't know if that's another sequencer like the Return of Reckoning implemented and did, but it looks like this version, according to what they said, they're going to be integrating a lot more add-ons into the main game. Now, it remains to see how many of those and how well they're going to work. The devs believe it's better to design around those issues instead of banning add-ons. I totally agree with that. I mean, if you can work around with it or integrate them into the system, it's definitely a lot better than just ban it. The word ban doesn't go very well with a lot of people online, including me. I don't like banning people or banning things. We can work around it or find something else. This seems a little bit too harsh for anything as a word to be used. On the balance part of the game, just a few things. They didn't go into too much detail, but there's going to be 1.1 second global cooldown. Okay, it's going to help a lot in quite a few things. True damage is removed, morals can be mitigated. That is a huge difference between the original game and Return of Reckoning, which means no longer morale bombs are undefendable. You will not take 100% of the damage, or if you receive a certain amount, 50%, as it was converted to ROR. when you are being hit by a morale, you will mitigate. You can block, you can parry, your resistances will be accounted for. And that is a good thing because you just can't annihilate an entire army if you build your morale a lot faster than the other side. And usually we had some issues about some classes building morale faster than others. Some were pumping, and you know. So this is going to be good. However, there has been a question about how are we going to fight big numbers, the so-called blobs or the many warbands, if we don't have a mean of breaking them up. They said that there's going to be some warband or blob breaking abilities, but without using true damage. We'll see what that's going to be when the time comes and how they're going to do that. But not having true damage in the game means you have a lot more options. You don't have a one push button to win. MMO Holy Trinity replaced with a start-based system. DPS can now shift towards support, and support can shift towards DPS, etc. This is something very good for me. I like that. I don't like when something is 100% a tank, 100% a DPS, 100% that. You can if you want to, of course, but it's nice to say that, you know what, I want to be a DPS, but I also want to have a little bit of support role. I want to be a DPS, but I want to be a little bit more tanky. I want to be a tank, but I want to be a little bit more DPS so I can have more roles to fill if we're missing people, if we're doing this or that. So the whole shift between that and giving more options for the builds, it's also very good and gives us things to do, things to experiment with, and not just say, this is it, you're done. Major meta changes are scheduled every season. Current estimate is every 4 months. Okay, minor changes. Okay, the game, we can't have major things or a lot of new content coming into this game as being a very old game. However, this gives us something fresh to do. Meta changes. We'll see how well that exactly it is and how well it's going to work, how limited it's going to be. But the idea is there for us to have different things to do every 4 months in PvP. Okay, it's not going to be very stagnant as it was before because of the seasons. I really think that's a good thing, but I will also put a little question mark. Will they have enough people to implement these changes? Will these changes in the meta be significant in order to, you know, make it interesting for people to maybe grind some new gear, change their build, try new tactics, new warband formations, and things like that? Or they're going to be just minor changes that are not going to make any difference, and it's not going to be worth your time changing or even trying it. It's not perfect, but it is something that gives us new perspective and new things to do in the game. So let's hope that they will manage to make this good and be worth their time and our time. All right, next section is gearing up, and this is also very good because this is our motto, Fix It TV, gear up. So gear will be RNG for stats selected. I'm not a great fan of RNG stuff. Random number generation can be tedious, it can be annoying when you get something and it's not exactly what you want. You know, I'm more of a preset kind of start getting guy. However, all the modern games are based on this, so this brings a new fresh air into the game. Gear will be binary equipped, so it can be traded. That's also extremely good. How many times we've done dungeons and an item drops for a class that's not in the dungeon, and then we just have to throw it away. Now we're able to trade it. You can save it for an alt that you're leveling up, or if you drop something that's not for your class, and you pick it up, but the guy next to you can use it, you can give it to them so they feel that the run wasn't wasted, or the other way around. Gear will be gained via drops, which removes the whole necessity about you collecting metals, collecting any type of currency. You play, it drops, you have it. It's the modern way of doing things. There will be 2 level requirements for the gear, and that will be level 1 and level 16. Basically, that corresponds to the 2 new tiers that's going to be there as it exists on the current server of Return of Reckoning. Respectively, tier 1 and tier plus gear will also have an item level, which is something new, and will, for example, start at item level 40 on release, and it will increase at an internally decided maximum gear drop level later on. Dumps stats on gear no longer exist. For example, a Slayer can use ballistic skill. I'm assuming this has to do with the random generated stats. They weren't very clear, but what they did say was that if you're a Slayer, willpower is not used to you, ballistic not used to you, but if you get an item with that drop, that will help you. So I'm assuming, repeat this, I'm assuming that an offensive skill probably will enhance your attack skill until you get the perfect or best in slot item for you. Remember at this point that the server is still not live. They're still testing things, and we still don't have an ETA for that. So some of these things we talked so far may change or work a little bit differently. But at this point, it looks like a very interesting concept that might be worth our time. RVR. The thing we love to do most in this game, which is PvP for most of us anyways, without putting down the PvE aspect. So, for the RVR, some of the things we're going to deal with in this new server when it comes online, it's going to be anti-zerg ideas. I don't know if they have implemented this yet, that wasn't very clear. However, the classes will have anti-zerg abilities that scale based on players. I'm assuming the more players, the more damage you're going to do, or the more players you're going to hit in respect to that. RVR system has multiple zones to make it harder for blobs to control the battle. I'm going to put a bit of a question mark there about how many zones, because this does not take in account the people's behavior. So you may have 20 zones open and 100 people. That doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be 5 people in each zone. They're probably all going to go in one because they're all looking for more people to kill. So you're going to create the usual cluster that happens. Localized benefits based on relative numbers. I'm assuming that's something like a buff, like we already have on the Return of Reckoning private server, which probably is going to give you buffs, more renown, more XP, more something to be there. There will be no bolstering due to how the gear system works. I love that because number one, bolster, as we know, a lot of times create a lot of lag. Also, both the characters, some of the time seems like they were stronger than some normal characters that are already at top level. And I never liked that. So let's hope that's going to be resolved. Active zones are based on population. The more population, the more active zones. Good and bad. I mean, you have a lot of people, you want to open up another zone for people to move in and don't have that Zerg, the big blobs. However, if there aren't a lot of people, and being a new server, does that mean we're going to be stuck in one zone forever? Or there's going to be some sort of a timer, so although you have low population, every 3 hours the zone change, whoever gets more points gets the win or whatever. That is something that they're going to have to look at, because if the server doesn't get a lot of population, then maybe you get stuck in one zone. But I do like the idea of the more people, the more zones you open up, so the new people can move to the new zone, build something new, or something like that. 2 RVR tiers. We already talked about this. Is going to be tier 1, which they call the tutorial tier, which probably is going to be 1 to 16, as it has been. It could be 1 to 10, we don't know, but they assume 1 to 16 and then 16 to everything else. And the tier plus, also known as tier 2 to 4. So that's not going to be a change. However, so far in this RVR reveal they did on the Q&A, we see something new, anti-zerg abilities. We'll see how that's going to work. Scalable, not just, flat, so you can use those off a warband and kill somebody solo. They're going to be scalable. I like that. The bolster is gone. I love that. Active zones on population, a bit of a question mark. We'll see how that's going to work out. And again, 2 tiers. Finally, the last thing we have to look at, because we're talking about a server, we're talking about an online game, an mmorpg, good, bad, new, old. It's very important, the performance. The performance of the game has to be good. We don't want issues on login. We don't want disconnects. We don't want rubber banding. We don't want massive lag. For this reason, we were told in the Q&A that the War emulator code has been rewritten from the ground up, and it has been converted from C to C++. I'm not a computer guy, as you know, but apparently it's far more performant and doesn't stutter. And this also includes a rewrite on the ability system, which is the last thing we knew about the Return of Reckoning server as well. They were rewriting the ability system to allow them to do changes faster and more efficient. It looks like on the Interbellum server, they're following the same tactic there. So if everything we've seen so far today is true, we're looking at something new, fresh, and exciting with no ETA. And that is something that's been happening a lot these days in a lot of different games. We get hyped, ETA is too long, then it comes out, this didn't work, that didn't work, that guy left, they quit, they did. But overall, just to sum this video up, we have new ability systems, we have more versatility in the classes, apparently better performance, we have a couple of things changing on the balance, a totally new gearing system for everybody to enjoy with drops, RNG stats, no more useless stats. And I think personally that this at least is worth a try when it comes out. Stay tuned to Fixit TV. I'll get you the latest update as soon as possible. And of course, we'll be training together. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave some comments underneath. Let me know what you think about this upcoming server whenever it's online. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.